Welcome everybody, Wild Willie here, and this is the first episode of my tips for starting Borderlands 4. If you're brand new to Borderlands 4 like I am, this is going to be 10 tips for your first 5 levels of Borderlands 4. Let's hop right into it. I am playing as Vex. I set my difficulty level to normal. That's tip number 1. You can change the difficulty setting in the game at any point in time. Easy is easy. Normal is normal, and hard, you get more loot, but you also get penalized for using the wrong weapon type against the wrong defenses. Very simply put, you have red health bars, which are flesh, you have yellow health bars, which are armor, and you have blue health bars, which are shields. Later on in the game, that's going to become more important. Early on, you just point the gun at the enemy and shoot. Every weapon is going to have some measure, basic weapon is going to have some measure of kinetic damage, so you can just point it and shoot. I wouldn't worry too much about the different weapon types and damage types right now. But do know that, in my 8 hours of level 7 playing the game, normal feels normal. It's challenging because it's new to me. And, I've heard from other content creators that have been playing on hard. They tend to set it back to normal. It's just generally, the supposedly better loot isn't going to be worth it. And that brings us to tip number 2. And that is, don't get attached to any piece of gear. This isn't like Elden Ring. A lot of the other content that I do is for Elden Ring and the Elden Ring Convergence mod. You get a build, you rock that build through the rest of the game. You get a weapon, you level it up. Here, you are constantly cycling through equipment, because as you level up, the game levels up. Your enemies level up, and so does the gear that you find. And that brings us to tip number 3, hopping into the game. When you get rewards, you want to go ahead and open those rewards. Because when you get the rewards, I'm level 7, I open a chest. If I got that chest at level 7, it's going to have level 7 gear in the chest. So there's no point in being like, oh, I got a gold chest, I got a red chest, if you have it, and it's spawned in front of you, it's going to be spawned in at the level that you're at. So don't wait to open rewards. I will give you an example right here and now. I have a reward. Don't know what it is. Let's go ahead and open it. Killed 50 enemies with Daedalus weapons and gear. Probably just going to get a skin. What did I get? I got a hover drive for my vehicle. So anyway, you do want to just go ahead and open your loot chests, because they are going to be to the level that you have. The next thing I want to talk about is on the map. I've kind of progressed a little bit more into the basic story. You're going to start all the way down here. And then, in terms of progression for tip number 4, I would suggest that you progress the main quest until you get to the map and you get over to here. This is, if I can zoom in on it, I'll change my map. If you can zoom in on it a little bit more, this is our first faction town that you come to in the game. And it's telling me what's available here. That is going to be the next tip. So anyway, the Launchpad, Faction Town. This is going to be within your first 5 levels. You're going to end up here. I would suggest kind of beelining the main storyline until you get here. Don't do any side quests. Don't do any bounties. Just beeline until you get to the Launchpad. Simply because you can fast travel here. You see the fast travel icon is available. I've got vendors here that are unlocked that I can sell stuff to and buy stuff to. And you get your vehicle here. You get your little hovercraft here. So that is going to be the tip to get to the town. Next tip number 5 is going to be when you fast travel, you either need to do it from a faction town or you need to do it from a safe house. And this is a safe house that I've unlocked. You travel around the map, you will find these things, but then you have to like find a control panel in it, find a little chippy thing, use it to take control of the safe house, and then you unlock it, and it's a fast travel point that you can get to. It's also going to have vending machines there that you can use. So that's tip number 5, I believe. The next tip I'm going to go over is in your inventory. When you first start out, you're basically going to be picking up and rocking whatever it is that you find as you progress through the game. Right now, I do not have an ideal setup. I wanted to show this off. I have an assault rifle and I have 2 shotguns. These are good shotguns, and we'll get to more of that in a minute. Which is why I have them. But one of the problems that I have is that every time you get a piece of equipment, you are going to slot it into one of 3 available slots early in the game. You unlock more slots as you progress through the game. And 2 of my 3 weapons are pulling from 1 ammo type. Each type of gun has its own ammunition that you will find out in the world. And so right now I have got 2 of my weapons pulling from my shotgun ammo. Fortunately, they don't fire very fast or have very big mags, so that's not a huge problem compared to other weapons. But, my advice would be pick 1 of each type of weapon early on in the game, your first 5 levels, and just that allows you to you might have your favorite, but then if you bullet spray and run out of ammo, you can switch to something else and not have 2 useless weapon slots instead of 1. The next tip I have is tip number 7. This is going to be, don't get attached to any of your gear. Like I said, you will level up and you will find so much gear. This is a looter-shooter type of game. You will be constantly finding new gear. So don't get too attached. Like every 5 levels or so, I would suggest sitting down and going through your inventory and looking through your backpack and getting rid of lower level items. You can see right here, I've got a couple of different energy shields. They're going to be lower than probably what I might have. They're both level 7 though. So every 5 levels or so, you want to go through and get rid of some of your stuff. The next thing I want to talk about, next tip is going to be over here. As you go through the game and you unlock these safe houses in these faction towns, you're going to get SDU points. You can see that I have 40 in the top right hand corner. I'm saving that for the next upgrade to my backpack. My backpack is equipment that I actually carry with me. My bank I can send stuff to. And again, you want to get to the launch pad to get access to the bank. And I'll go over that in a minute. And then I have lost loot, which I'll also go over. I put a couple points into some early weapons that I've been enjoying using, but generally I'm sticking to backpack, lost loot, and bank because the looter-shooter, you're going to be getting a lot of stuff, and you don't want to be necessarily leaving stuff behind. At the very least, you can go back to a faction town or a safe house to a vending machine and sell it and get more money so that you can buy more loot. So anyway, let us fast travel again. I want to go back to my faction town. So let me find it. It's right here. Got to find the little icon that says fast travel. Little tricky. If you zoom in with right trigger, that's going to be, so there we go. Now I found my town icon. I can fast travel. This reminds me, next tip is going to be about game settings. If you're thinking about hopping into the game, you're worried about performance. I am playing on an Asus TUF Gaming A17 laptop PC. It has an auto detect for settings. They're on the lower end. This ain't no fancy, gaming PC like you see the pros using that costs like $6,000. but it runs just fine. It looks fine. There's no lag for me. We are all going to experience the little thing where it says compiling shaders. That's just part of the game loading in. But in terms of all-around game performance, you can buy it on Steam and run it for a couple hours. And if it's cheeks, if it's totally horrible, you can return it. And then, get it when you get a better rig. If you're on console, on an Xbox or PlayStation, it should be pretty well optimized. But this is kind of more of a tip for my PC users. So I mentioned a couple of things. I mentioned bank and I mentioned lost loot. So this is our first bank. We can put weapons in here. When you find equipment out in the field, you can send it to your bank. So if you're starting to get full, your backpack is starting to get full, you can pick out some more stuff, random stuff, more interesting stuff, whatever, and send it to the bank. And then when you get back here, you can get it, pull it out of the bank and look at it and decide what you want to do with it. Next tip I'm going to give you is opening everything. You get actually an achievement for doing this, and you can get weapons and ammunition. Mostly it's going to be ammo. Every once in a while you'll find, a piece of equipment stashed away in one of these things. But definitely, open everything. If your ammo is full, great, don't worry about it. Definitely don't try to do it in the middle of combat unless, you have a death wish or you just don't care. That's the next tip. Open everything that you can interact with. Next tip I'm going to go over is the vending machines. We'll start with this. We'll just start with the gun one here. So we have an item of the day. My ammo is full. I want to use the vending machine. So we have if you look in the top left-hand corner of my screen, we have two different options. We can buy and we can sell. So I can look at the item and then I can compare it to my current item, see if it's better. And, but more importantly, it's more useful to know, okay, what have I got? All my gear is kind of level 7 at this point. I got a couple of level 4s. So, guess what? I'm, gonna go ahead and sell those. They're not gonna be up to par, damage-wise. Let's see if I can find another submachine gun. Compare this to the level 4 one. It is an epic, but in any event. So know that you have a buying and selling. You can also go into your backpack and look at stuff and go from there where you're selling stuff. And this is going to be weapons, and this is going to be like shields and rev kits. So my next tip is going to be going back to equipment. When you get equipment to start out with, obviously, you're just going to be putting on whatever it is you find. We had the 3 weapon slots that we have unlocked. And then you are going to have an ordnance, a grenade. So I'm going to be like right bumper to throw my grenade. I get 2 charges before my cooldown, so I can chuck out 2 of these bad boys. And then I got to wait 13 seconds to be able to use more. And then same thing with my rev kit. This is my heal. This one is on a 12-second cooldown. It gives me a 24-point heal. Not great at this point, but it's also 45 points over 8 seconds. So I'm getting a little burst of initial healing, and then, roughly double that amount over the next 8 seconds. And then, it's on a 12-second cooldown. It's kind of ready to go again. And then I also have a shield. I get a shield. Enemies are going to have a shield. So I've got that equipped. So again, the first time you get anything, hey, guess what? Chuck it on. It's the best one you got. Later on, you're going to be looking through and looking at the effects and the cooldown time and the recharge time. And that's going to be something that determines, whether it's going to be better for you. And it gets even more, complex, more fun, if you will, later on. So next tip I'm going to talk about here is underbarrels, the alt fire. So if you see on this particular shotgun, the alt fire, I can change between radiation damage and corrosive damage. Okay, on this one, this is more important for you who are, looking to take down a harder boss, the splash zone boss, the first boss you have to fight in the first 5 levels or so of the game. I'm like, I'm not doing enough damage to this dude. Well, switch to alt fire mode. You can see that my basic DPS is 11 points of damage per shot. But my alt fire mode is going to do 25 times 6. So it's a shotgun. It's going to do 150 points of damage. So when I switch to alt fire mode, I can get off a big burst of damage until I run out of shells. And that's on a cooldown as well. So if you are struggling with a boss, you want to look for an assault rifle, an SMG with an underbarrel, and then when you're fighting that boss, you switch to the underbarrel, and you will get a big burst of damage. Last couple of things I want to go over. I mentioned lost loot. What is lost loot? Lost loot is this machine over here. If you're running around in a fight, you picked up some stuff, but something, got blown up and blown behind a trash can. You didn't see it, or you had to run. You left an area and didn't pick up a piece of loot. That loot can end up in this machine. And I believe mine's cleared out. Oh no, there were a couple things in there. There was a Megatonic and a Painter submachine gun. So now I have those items in my inventory. I can look at them. Didn't miss out on anything. And, and worst case scenario, I can always just sell them. And get some more cash. So let's see. Anything else I wanted to go over? One more thing. In the top right-hand corner of my screen, you'll see it. It's kind of blank right now. If I were out in the world and I saw enemies, that would start lighting up red. Let me get on my vehicle and see if we can't find some baddies out in the world just to show you. This is one of the early game settings that you can choose. It's either a compass or a radar. And that's in your settings. And once, I go to a point where there are enemies, I'm just looking for anything. Any wild animals, anything at all. Bueller, Bueller, Bueller. Okay, it just told me where I was. I'm passing these phone book looking things. That is that symbol on the right. If I die here, that will respawn me here. If I quit the game, all right, here we got some. All right, now you see how that group of enemies is lit up on my radar. I would highly recommend the radar as a tip, because it's just like the compass is what's on the top middle of my screen. And, it's like, okay, that's nice. They're enemies. I don't know quite where they are. Whereas with this, with the radar, you're going to know where the enemies are relative to you. And then how far away they are. So it's like, there's an enemy behind me. Is he right behind me? Or not? So that's another set of tips. I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up here. If you've enjoyed the content, there will be more as I progress through the game. Tips that I think are useful. This is going to be kind of an ongoing series. If you're new to the game and you have your own tips for whatever level that we're talking about, early game, mid game, late game, feel free to add them into the comments. And as always, likes and subscribes are always appreciated. So that's it for this episode in Borderlands 4. Wild Willie signing out. We'll see you all in the next one.